Hello everybody, John12 back here again with another video, and I'm here with another DC Talk video. And San Diego Comic-Con has come and went, and we got a lot of great DC stuff, mostly for the movies. Obviously, the most talked about thing about Comic-Con when it comes to DC was their great movie trailers. However, we also had a presence from DCCW. We got a Legends panel, Arrow, Flash, even Supergirl featuring their newest cast member, Tyler Hoechlin, or Hoechlin. I don't know how to say his name, but don't kill me in the comments for it. However, when San Diego Comic-Con was over, they decided, I guess seeing as how we really didn't show anything Supergirl related other than have, cast members talk about, hey, it's pretty cool to have Superman on the show now, they decided to show the first ever image of Superman post San Diego Comic-Con, which I guess is their way of saying, sorry, we fucked up. However, with that being said, we also got some various set photos of Tyler in Superman costume for filming in Vancouver of Supergirl Season 2, so there is also that, which might be a knee-jerk reaction to, I guess, the internet's reaction towards Tyler's Superman suit. A lot of people seem to be very negative towards it, and now I'm here to give you my breakdown and personal thoughts on the suit itself, and also the set photos we got recently of Tyler and his new Superman costume. Now, before getting into the costume, I'm pretty stoked about this whole thing. I mean, Supergirl Season 1, wasn't a big fan of it. I really just recently rewatched and pretty much binged on the season, and I can honestly say I'm very divisive on that show. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's really freaking bad, and I wasn't really a big fan on the season finale, which I will not spoil here. However, just in general, the only thing that's really keeping me on for Supergirl Season 2 is Superman's reappearance on the TV-verse, and of course, the four-way crossover, the gangbang of DC content that will be going on CW later this year, or possibly next year, with all the crossovers with Legends, Flash, Arrow, and of course now including Supergirl. With that being said and done, Tyler was casted, and I made a video on it, and I can honestly say a lot of people were obviously differing from my opinion. My opinion was, I would have liked an actor who was a little bit older, a little bit more wiser, maybe a person who's maybe played Superman in the past before. A lot of people disagreed with me. However, we got our first look at Tyler as Superman for Supergirl, and I can honestly say my fears and personal opinions with my last video stand true. Now, let's get into detail with the first ever image of Tyler as Superman. Now, in the image itself, he's standing next to Supergirl with this weird, like, Zack Snyder-y kind of Man of Steel filter and lens flares all over the place. And the image, when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, Superman. We finally got to see him and how he looks. Really cool there. But when you go into higher resolution and start nitpicking the suit itself, I can honestly say the suit that Tyler will be wearing on the CW as Superman, I am very divisive on. Now, let's start off with Tyler's look. He doesn't really look that much like Superman in the image itself. He really has this just... He feels like less of a seasoned Superman and more of an actor who's playing Superman for the first time. And I know that's what's really happening here, but in general, with a character like Superman who's been Superman in the context of this storyline in Supergirl, who's been doing this for a long time, I still feel in my personal judgment and opinion in my previous video still stand true, which is they should have got an older actor. He just looks very unnatural and just he doesn't stand well next to Melissa Benoist's Supergirl. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're the same fucking age. Yes, he looks a little taller and he's a little bit manlier, but who gives a shit about that crap? They are the same fucking age. I still feel, based off my previous video, that they should have stuck with an older actor, someone who is in their early 30s, maybe mid-30s. And his build is also kind of a problem. When you look at him, he doesn't have like a Superman-esque physique. He has a good one for maybe TV, but it just doesn't fit what I personally would say is the perfect look and physique of Superman. Now, granted, it can go either way. There's various interpretations of the character, of course, in comics, but as for the context of this show, I don't really buy it at this point in time. But with that being said, the costume itself, there's some aspects about it I really like. Number one has to be solid, the S. The shield itself, I love it. I think it's great. My big fear was with his costume, the costume designers would just take the Supergirl S and do the same thing with the Superman S. And I really like that they didn't go that route. They recreated an entirely different S. It's still the same basic initial, which is very representative of the early comic book version. And I'm okay with that. I like the fact that they filled in the yellows. I like the fact that it's bigger and it stands out. It feels like a legitimate shield versus Supergirl's shield on her costume. Also, another thing I really like is the lines within the costume. You can definitely tell they're going for a very New 52-esque kind of look with most of their costumes on CW at this point in time. They're definitely taking that aspect, and I like that. I like the fact that there's detail on the suit other than just being blue spandex, because when you compare, and they do it in the photo itself, when you compare Melissa's Supergirl costume with Tyler's Superman costume, there must be a definitive difference between each one. Her costume, if it looks shitty, it's okay for it to look shitty because it's a homemade costume. Superman's costume is definitively a Kryptonian costume, so it should look a little alien, a little bit more extravagant than Supergirl's costume. So I like the fact that the material looks slightly different. It's still the same basic kind of fabric and material that CW continues to use with most of their costumes for superhero characters, but as it stands, from looking at it afar, I think it works. And also the boots. I like the fact that they have this weird creasing to them. Granted, in certain angles it looks kind of weird, but overall I like the design of the boots and how they blended the costume. But with that being said and done, my major negatives with the costume definitely has to be the cape and the utility belt. I don't like the fact that they added this really weird utility belt to the costume. Granted, Superman's always had this weird belt type thing with the costume itself, and it is what it is. I like the fact with the DC movie stuff, they, decided to embed some form of Kryptonian-esque kind of belt to the costume, so it's not like a legitimate belt he buckles on. But with this costume, it just doesn't work for me. It just looks weird. It's like, why? What's with the utility belt? We don't really need that. It's unnecessary. Get rid of it. The cape, I don't really like it. I don't like how it attaches to the costume. It kind of looked like they almost wanted the cape and the shield to connect, but then they scrapped that idea and just decided to put buckles on there, and I don't buy it. It doesn't really look that great, and plus the cape itself, granted, CGI can help out with the cape, so that's not a big negative, but just in general, I'm not a big fan of the cape itself. And that's pretty much it. Those are my major negatives with the costume. Now, with the set photos we got of Tyler, because I'm guessing this was CW's way of like, shit, people are starting to get pissed off this freaking photo we sent. Here's some set photos. Leak, leak, leak. And looking at the set photos, I can definitely say my negativity towards the first look photo of Tyler as Superman is definitely better on set. He definitely looks like a better looking suit and a better looking Superman. But in general, just that first photo, it's hard to get out of my mind. And even with the set photos themselves, even though he looks a lot better, he's still just, I don't know, I don't buy Tyler as Superman yet. I have to wait and hold my final judgments until I watch the actual premiere episodes of Supergirl Season 2. But even looking at the first look photo and with the set photos, I don't buy him as Superman. He looks more like Superboy, and a lot of that has to do with my first, official opinions with my last Supergirl video, which was they should have just casted an older actor. It just feels weird having this guy who's the same age as Melissa Benoist and try and pretend, oh, he's a lot older. He's a seasoned Superman. He's worldwide Superman. It's just, he doesn't look that way. He looks like Super fucking Boy. I don't buy it. I really don't. And the photo itself sucked. It had this very Photoshoppy kind of weird thing. I don't know. I just didn't like the photo. The set photos definitely help. And the costume itself, I'm very 50-50 on it. Some parts of it I like, other parts of it I don't like. But overall, that's just been my personal opinions and my first reactions, initial thoughts on Tyler Hoechlin, or Hoechlin, I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry, people of YouTube, but I really don't. Superman costume. That's my personal opinion on his Superman costume, and that's just really all I can say at this point, and I'll leave my final judgments when I finally get to see his performance as Clark Kent and Superman, with possibly a new trailer for Supergirl or its inevitable premiere episode with the new season. But with that being said and done, comment below. Let me know what you personally think about the Tyler Superman costume, the Supergirl Season 2 Superman costume. What are your personal thoughts on it? Shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Josh12.